There's a saying, what got you here won't get you there. So if you're trying to take your guitar playing to the next level, you can't just keep doing what you've always done. You have to take a deep, honest look at your practice and change or get rid of anything that's holding you back. So here are 5 practice mistakes that are killing your progress. Number 1, reactive practice. You are in a constant state of just reacting to mistakes in your practice. You make a mistake, you try to fix it. Make a mistake, fix it, same mistake, fix it. And the crazy thing about this is that we just kind of view this as what practice is supposed to be. You make mistakes and you fix them. But it is so damaging to our playing. The problem with this is that muscle memory, what we're all trying to develop with our practice, right? The ability for our fingers to remember and play something accurately, consistently, over and over without much thought. Muscle memory is a numbers game. So the more you do something one way, the more likely you are to do it that way again. But it has zero regard for what's right or what's wrong, what's correct or what's a mistake. So if you're just allowing yourself to make the same mistakes over and over again, you're just cementing those mistakes into your muscle memory, and you wonder why you can never play something consistently correctly. So this reactive practice mindset is completely backwards. You have to flip your approach on its head and approach your practice with a preventive mindset where you strive at every cost to prevent those mistakes from ever happening in the first place. And before you shoot me down on this and say, Nathan, if I could prevent the mistakes in the first place, don't you think I'd already be doing that? I guarantee you there are 3 levers that you can pull and manipulate in your practice to prevent mistakes that you are not fully taking advantage of. I call this ISP, that's isolate, slow down, and pause. So when we're practicing, we can always isolate further, meaning we can always practice smaller and smaller sections of music so that we can really hyper focus in on what it is we're working on with minimal distractions of the previous and the following measures. We can always slow down more, and this is the one that you hate, right? You don't want to go slow, but you have to. We can always slow down enough to the threshold that what we're playing feels easy, and we can think about the minutia of our technique and all the things that we need in order to execute cleanly, consistently. And then we can insert intentional pauses in our practice. We often kind of assume a pause is a mistake. If I need to get from this chord to this chord in just a beat, if I hear a pause there, I kind of assume that's a mistake. But if I put that pause there intentionally, what I'm doing is I'm hesitating rather than erring, right? Rather than making a mistake. So if I go and I take a moment to make sure my fingers are exactly in the right place before committing, that's gonna prevent the mistake where if I wasn't feeling confident where my fingers had to go for this next chord and I just jumped for it and then I try to fix it after because I messed it up. That's reactive practice. Preventive practice, pause, make sure I'm all good, then commit. You do that a few times and then you can get rid of the pause and the muscle memory will remain. So isolate, slow down, pause, and adopt a mindset of preventive practice. Number 2, limiting beliefs. You have these creeping doubts that are gnawing at you and preventing you from going all in your practice. Maybe it's you think you're not talented enough, you don't have what it takes, or you don't have enough time, or you're too old, or your hands are too small. Whatever it is, if you believe these things, you won't put in the hard work. If you don't believe it's gonna pay out in the end and you're gonna become the guitarist that you wanna become, you're not gonna stick with it for the long haul and do what it takes to reach that goal. And I'll tell you this, the guitarists that you admire, that you watch here on YouTube or listen to, that you put up on a pedestal and feel like they have some X factor that you're missing, no, they are no different than you. They've wrestled with the same doubts that you're wrestling with right now. The only difference is that they didn't quit. They showed up day in and day out for years, relentlessly, because they overcame these limiting beliefs and they knew that if they just stuck with it, it would all pay out in the end. So that's all it takes. It really is that simple. So go to war with each of your limiting beliefs and doubts, reject them completely, and then get to work. Before we jump into number 3, I want to invite you to a free 7-day practice challenge that I'm going to be hosting this next week. If you are struggling to be consistent in your practice and follow through and show up every day, or if you kind of feel like you're just going through the motions and your focus is scattered and you don't really have any clear direction on what you're working on, join us. Each day over the next 7 days, I'm gonna give you a new fun musical exercise to practice. And through those daily exercises, we're gonna explore various practice techniques and concepts that you'll be able to use in your own practice routines over the next year or lifetime, so you can have that direction and focus and intentionality in your practice that you've been missing, that I've used to become the guitarist that I am today. Not only that, but you'll be surrounded by a community of other guitarists who are right there in the trenches with you in a Discord server where you can ask each other questions, give each other feedback, and we'll all be logging our practice together every day, hitting that checkbox to confirm whether or not you practice for the day, for accountability, right? To show that commitment and to start building that habit of daily disciplined practice that will follow you for the rest of the year. That's the thing. We need accountability. Stop trying to do this all on your own. Let me come alongside you and let me guide you. Hit the link down below. It's all free. Join us there. Number 3, practice mistake that's killing your progress: not using a metronome. I know you've heard it a million times. I'm saying it again because you still don't use one. Why don't we use the metronome? I can't tell you how many times I've had students tell me, Nathan, I don't know what's wrong with me. Every time I try to speed something up, everything just falls apart. And every time I ask them, well, were you using a metronome? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. So of course, when we try to speed up on our own, left to our own devices, we speed up too drastically, right? We start from 0, immediately we're at 100, and we wonder why we can't execute. So the metronome enables us to speed up gradually, little by little, essentially tricking ourselves into getting faster. The other beautiful thing about the metronome is that we can use it to hold us accountable to playing slow. We talked about preventive practice: isolate, slow down, pause. We need to spend a significant amount of our practice time playing slow, so slow that we can execute accurately, consistently. And the metronome prevents us from speeding up too quickly, too soon. So use the metronome, you'll get where you're going much faster than you would without it. Number 4, practicing too much or too little in one sitting. If somebody comes up to me and brags about how they practice 5+ hours a day, I'll think, good for you, that's great. But I bet you I accomplish more in half that time than you do, because you're probably practicing in like 1 to 2 hour uninterrupted chunks. And over the course of that time, you're losing focus, you're starting to kind of noodle around, you don't really have a clear goals or direction within that practice, and you're relying on the quantity of your practice to make up for the crappy quality. Now on the flip side, if you're just practicing 5 minutes here and 10 minutes there, kind of sprinkled throughout the day whenever you can get a break from whatever it is you're doing, that's better than nothing, but you are definitely limiting yourself, because by the time you kind of get warmed up and actually really into the practice and ready to go deep, time's up, right? You're never able to really retain what it is you're working on because you don't have enough time to get in those repetitions. Now, I find that the sweet spot between just not enough time to really go deep and then too much time where you start to lose focus is between 20 and 30 minutes of hyper-focused, uninterrupted practice. And I use the Pomodoro technique where you'll do this practice block of 20 to 30 minutes and follow that by a short 5-minute break to let your mind wander, do whatever else you got to do, and then come back for another hyper-focused 20 to 30 minute practice block. That will keep your practice hyper-focused and productive, and you're just gonna have to make more time to allow for that if you wanna really progress. Now, our final mistake, number 5, not committing to one thing for long enough. There's not just one correct path to becoming a great guitarist. There's millions. So just pick a path, pick something to focus on, and commit. I see you out there. You're bouncing from one song to another, from one exercise to another, one course to another. You try it for a few days. You don't get the results that you want, and so you assume that it's not working, and you give up and move on to the next thing. This stuff takes months, years. Just don't give up. You're so worried about focusing on the right things, the right techniques, and the right exercises that you don't focus on anything. It's all the right thing. Just stick with it. Bruce Lee said it best, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times." Hit the link below to join us for my free 7-day practice challenge. It's time to get serious about your playing, my friend. Let's get it.